everyone, and welcome back to my channel. I'm Jaylyn with BasicToBeauty here on YouTube, and today I will be showing you how I made these adorable and affordable Easter egg centerpieces that were made using majority of the products from the Dollar Tree. A full list of items used to create this DIY will be listed in the description box below, so let's get started. So the first thing that I wanted to do was I wanted to create a nice foundation for my centerpiece. I did this by using 3 of these small glass bubble ball bowls that I purchased from the Dollar Tree, and I used one of these smooth glass candle holders that was also purchased from the Dollar Tree. After I had removed all of the stickers, I took the first glass bowl, flipped it upside down, and I hot glued the bottom of the bowl to the top of the glass candle holder in the middle and pressed them together firmly for 30 seconds. You will want to be extra cautious with this step because if the bowl and the candle holder don't line up perfectly, then your centerpiece is going to look entirely off-centered at the end, and you do not want that. Next, I used some of this forest moss that I purchased from Walmart, and I cut it up into smaller pieces and used this old shoebox that I had lying around to hold the moss in it so it wouldn't make such a mess when I used it. Then, using the same bowl as before, I carefully hot glued the moss into the bottom of the bowl in small sections, and I repeated this step over and over until the bottom of the bowl was fully covered with the moss and I could no longer see through it. And here's what the first bowl looked like once I was finished. I then repeated the same step for the second bowl and put it on the side until I was ready for the next step. Next, moving on to the egg arrangement portion of this DIY, I used 1.5 packs of these adorable egg crates that I purchased from the Dollar Tree so that each centerpiece would have 9 eggs total. To do this step, I hot glued the bottom of each egg to the bottom of the bowl to create the illusion that the eggs were sitting in grass. While placing each egg inside of the bowl, I made sure to position the egg so that it was sitting upwards at an angle facing outwards instead of just standing the egg straight up. I also made sure to glue the eggs as close together as possible to make it look like the eggs were sitting in a nest. And honestly, the end result turned out so nice. And here's what my first bowl looked like once I was finished. Now, your color pattern might look a little different than mine, and that's okay, but these were the colors that I decided to go with for my first layer, and I loved how it turned out. I then, of course, repeated the same step with the second bowl, and here's how that turned out. Finally, moving on to the third bowl and the top tier of my centerpiece, I used one of these adorable Easter wooden signs from the Dollar Tree that said, "We believe in the Easter Bunny." Now, even though the sign was adorable all on its own, unfortunately I did have to sacrifice it for the bunny cutout. I did this by taking a flathead screwdriver and I carefully scraped off the bunny cutout from the sign. I then removed any leftover paper that was still stuck to the bunny and I discarded that with the leftover sign. I then put the bunny on the side so that way I could finish the next step before coming back to this. Since I wanted the bunny cutout to sit in the middle of my centerpiece, I ended up purchasing this 4-pack of floral foam and this 15-pack of wooden dowels from the Dollar Tree. Now, moving on to the third bowl, I hot glued the moss inside of the bowl just like before, but this time I made sure to leave the center of the bowl bare so that I would have enough space to put in my floral foam. For the floral foam, I ended up cutting it into a small rectangle that was barely big enough to hold the wooden dowel in the middle, just like so. I then hot glued the bottom of the floral foam cutout and glued it in the middle of my bowl like this. After the glue was dry, I then hot glued a wooden dowel inside of the hole that I made previously inside the foam, and I held it standing straight up until the glue had fully dried. Once that had finished drying, I then hot glued some more of the forest moss around the floral foam to cover it up so that you can no longer see it. And here's what my bowl looked like once that was finished. I then hot glued the 3 eggs into the bowl just like before, only this time I had to be extra careful not to mess up the foam or the wooden dowel. I found that it was best for me to push the egg down as hard as I could while it was still drying so that the egg kind of molded the foam and fit more securely that way. And here's what it looked like once I was finished. I then stacked the 3 bowls together, making sure that the bowl with the candle holder was on the bottom and the bowl with the wooden dowel was on the top. After I was certain that all my bowls were lined up perfectly, I then hot glued each bowl together on the edges a little at a time to make sure that they were fully covered and that the hot glue wasn't getting everywhere. And because I wasn't really happy with how the hot glue looked, I used this super cute lace detail ribbon that I purchased from the Dollar Tree, and I hot glued the ribbon over the same glue spots that were on the edges before, and I repeated the same step for both layers of the bowls. I used about 12 inches of ribbon for each bowl. Then, using the same cutout bunny from before, I hot glued the back of the bunny to the front of the wooden dowel, leaving about 1.5 inches of space in between the bowl and the bottom of the bunny. Now this last step is completely optional, but because I wanted to make my centerpieces look a little more high-end, I used some of this jute twine to make a little bow around each bowl over the ribbon that I glued on previously. I used about 2 feet of twine to tie around each bowl, and then I trimmed off the excess twine that I no longer needed. And finally, here's what the finished product looked like. I still cannot get over how well it turned out. In fact, I loved it so much that I did end up making 2 of them because I thought that my centerpiece needed a buddy. But they really do look so cute and so high-end, and I honestly think that they would make the perfect centerpiece for any table during Easter dinner, or you can even have them sitting out all spring long, and they would just be perfect for this time of year. Alright guys, so that concludes it for today's DIY using the majority of products from the Dollar Tree. A full list of items used will be in the description box below, and as always, I will catch you in the next video. Bye guys!